This is History for Cocktail Parties with hack historians Thornton Kennedy and James Ottley.
Welcome back to History for Cocktail Parties. I'm Thornton Kennedy, here with my co-host,
James Ottley.
How we doing, James?
Doing great, man. It's great to be here.
And I am here with my Panamanian rum and Coke. I think the Cuba Libre was more of a Cuban thing.
Sounds that way. Yes, indeed. Free Cuba.
Well, but it is legitimately a Panamanian rum. That's the important thing.
That is an odd name for that Panamanian rum.
I know. So why don't you catch us up on where we are? We just finished episode 5, and I know that sounds like a lot, but we moved really quickly through it. So catch us up. Where are we?
Right on. So the Colombian Senate had rejected the treaty to allow the U.S. to build the canal, to buy the canal project from the French and start the Panama Canal. It's still part of Colombia at this point. And Teddy Roosevelt, by August 28, 1903, had settled on 3 possible alternatives. Proceed to construct the canal under the 1846 Bidlack Treaty, which allowed him to do it, and fight Colombia if she objected. Move in accordance with the Spooner Act and turn to Nicaragua and build it there. Or 3, delay work until, quote, something transpires to make Colombia see the light.
Foreshadowing.
Indeed.
I think we'll get into it this episode. But before we go any further, I want to say a quick word about our sponsor, Play. Business is serious, but who wants serious, stodgy marketing? Check out our friends at Play, a full-service advertising agency. They're deep in the mix with AI and digital know-how, driving more people to your door. And whether it's IRL, in real life, or virtual, Play ensures the right people find you and buy what you're selling. See their many case studies at goplaydesign.com. That's goplaydesign.com. And start growing your business today.
Again, we really thank the guys at Play.
Absolutely.
For their sponsorship.
Thank you so much. So, James, we are, I've been itching to say this, we are on the precipice of a revolution.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. So let's start with that. The first known organizational meeting of the Panama Revolution. Again, Panama, this area was part of Colombia. It was not a separate country at this point. It was held in a country estate outside Panama City in July of 1903. It was about 25 people. There was both Colombians and Americans that were there. Surprise, surprise. American Herbert Prescott, who was a railroad engineer or officer, Panamanian railroad engineer / officer. There was a guy named Arango, who was a senator of from the Department of Panama. He was also involved. He was a railroad attorney as well. U.S. Consul General at Panama City was there, part of the conspiracy. 2 officers from the U.S. Corps of Engineers, and a guy named Melendez, who was he was a highly political police chief, part-time straw boss for the railroad, and he was going to handle the uprising on the Atlantic side. Again, about 25 people. Most of them had been in regular communication with our friend Cromwell, as you might guess or might imagine. So he's in this deep. So Cromwell had told them that he would go to the limit for him, and so they decide to send a fellow compatriot. This guy wasn't at the meeting, but Dr. Manuel Amador to New York to see
Amador.
Who they call.
He tries so hard.
He does. To see the, quote, responsible person. They're using code. They're talking about Cromwell.
Right.
To line up the necessary arms and money and secure, assurances from the Secretary of State that if they revolt, that it will be given, American military support. And Dr. Amador, he's the least suspicious of the group. He had a son in the U.S. Army who was stationed in Massachusetts. And so, as instructed, his son sends a cable to his father, says, "I am sick, please come get me." And so they come up with a code. These 25 conspirators come up with a code, and there are 26 numbers signifying different outcomes. Like number 1 or number 2 says, if he sends the code number 2, that means have not been satisfied with the Secretary of State in my first conference. But they've got 26 different numbers, each aligned with the code. I mean, they've planned this thing out. And so, again, we keep talking about butterfly and flukes of history. Amador leaves Cologne, but he didn't have enough money for even modest travel expenses.
Yeah.
So, he would not be able to continue his mission once he got to the U.S. because he didn't have any money. So, luckily, he starts playing, starts playing poker and has a couple of good days at the poker table, or good nights at the poker table, and wins enough in order to continue his mission once he gets to New York. Crazy. This whole Panamanian Revolution, Panama Canal, could have been ended right there if he runs out of money. Literally wins at the poker table. But he also has good luck there, but he also runs into trouble. He meets this, at the poker table, this guy named Dubuque, who's a Cuban with interest in Panama. He's a naturalized American citizen. He's kind of a mystery figure. He's not part of the revolutionary group, but he does know he knows Cromwell, right. He knows what he's up to. And, but it's still not really clear what this guy Dubuque is up to. And so Dubuque talks to Amador, and Dubuque goes to Cromwell, directly, even before Amador. And Cromwell tells Dubuque that if Dubuque comes up with $100,000 to finance the revolution, that Cromwell will assure him that he'll be the president of the new Panama Republic.
Yeah.
The power that this Cromwell guy had was just unbelievable. Anyway, he calls the Secretary of State, Cromwell does, and gets him to meet with Dubuque. Dubuque goes down there. The Secretary of State, Hay, is eager to see him. And he meets with Hay. But Dubuque, he gets no direct promise of military help, from Hay. Secretary of State Hay says the U.S. would land troops, but to protect the railroad if there were a revolution, but nothing else.
Right.
So very weak. So at this point, for some reason, and this is kind of the mystery, Dubuque goes to the Colombian delegation that's still in D.C. and tells this guy Thomas Heron, tells him everything.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and I don't know that still to this day we know why he did this. But anyway, Heron sounds the alarm. He cables Bogota, tells them about this plan for a revolution. They put detectives on Dr. Amador, who's completely clueless about this. And Heron also cables the Compagnie Nouvelle in Paris and says, look, the deal is off. If the Compagnie Nouvelle is in on this revolution, deal's off. Colombia's, not going to agree to this treaty. There's no way we're going to agree to a Panama Canal. So finally, Amador goes to Cromwell's office, and Cromwell knows, jig is up. He's been found out. Refuses to see him. Amador, just won't leave his office.
Yeah.
He just sits there. Finally, Cromwell bursts out, says, get the hell out of here, shoves him against the wall. And Amador still is like,
what the hell?
What the hell?
No idea what just happened. Exactly. This all happens while he's thinking they've got this top secret thing. It's all blown up.
Exactly. So he cables the revolutionary group back in Panama, quote, disappointed, and, plans to leave on the next ship. But Amador then receives word from a Panamanian banker in New York to stay put and stay quiet, that there would be help from, quote, another quarter.
Dun, dun, dun.
Exactly. And remember our friend, the Frenchman, Philippe Bruno Varia, who we've been talking about so much? Well, this is when he comes back into the picture. Turns out to be the help from the other quarter. And he arrives in New York on September 1903. Varia says that he's gone to New York just by chance, but it's exactly 2 weeks since Amador had sent his, quote, disappointed cable, and exactly enough time for Cromwell to cable Paris, have Varilla catch the next steamer. And so it wasn't by chance, because Cromwell told him to get his arse over here and be the, help with this revolution. And so he He said his excuse was he'd come to pick up his 13-year-old son, who had been spending the summer with John Bigelow at his summer estate. And Bigelow,
what are the chances?
I know, comes back into the scene, time and time again.
We need to do a podcast on Bigelow. He's everywhere.
Yes,
just very quietly everywhere.
All right, that's on tape, on the record. It is. So when I propose it,
we have to come back to the fact that we have this mysterious man who seems to be plugged in everywhere.
Absolutely. So Amador meets with Varia at the Waldorf Astoria, room 1162. Not that that's really important, but a unique detail.
James Ottley will stay in that room in the future.
I should.
You should.
Indeed. So Amador tells him the whole story, asks for money for the revolution. He actually asked for $6 million. And they agree to like code names. One is Smith and the other is Jones. I mean, it's just like a movie.
It really is.
So Varia, at this point, goes and he gets a meeting with President Roosevelt, and I want to say that Varia is able to meet with Roosevelt. I mean, maybe because of Cromwell, but actually Cromwell and Varia don't like each other. So
It's so crazy that those two just never really.
Absolutely, and they are acting completely separately.
Yeah. Same exact end goal,
right?
But just operating in totally different ways.
Varia refers to Cromwell as Cromwell, that lawyer.
Right.
Lawyer.
Just a derogatory term. Again.
So Varia, the Frenchman, meets with President Roosevelt. And, Roosevelt, did not say anything definitive. He couldn't. I mean, all he said was he had no use for the Colombian government. Roosevelt says Colombia had forfeited any claim, that for any money from the U.S. So Varia left this meeting positive. He knew where Roosevelt stood, even though Roosevelt didn't say anything definitive. Right. And so Varia goes back to New York. He meets with Amador again at the Waldorf, and he says $100,000 should be sufficient. And Amador had asked originally for $6 million, and he says that the new Republic of Panama, if we're going to plan this revolution, it should only comprise the Canal zone. And
oh wow,
yeah, which is a much smaller area than these 25 revolutionaries had originally wanted.
Wait a second, what?
Varia, huh? Wait. So Varia, and actually one of them drops out because I'll get to this in a minute, because his property is actually outside the canal zone, and he's like, wait a minute, I'm left out in the cold. So Varia prepares a revolution kit. It's got a proclamation for independence, basic military plan, a scheme for the defense of Panama City and Colón, a draft constitution, some more codes, and the only thing it lacked was what?
A flag.
It lacked the flag.
The flag.
Indeed.
This gets him in a lot of trouble.
We'll get to that in a second. So he arranges a meeting for Varia. Varia arranges a meeting for... or gets a meeting with the Secretary of State Hay, and he tells Varia, look, he does tell Varia, the Secretary of State does, that orders have been given to naval forces to sail towards the isthmus. He tells Varia about a novel, but the kind of funny thing about this meeting is he tells Varia about a novel that he, Secretary of State, has just read called Captain Macklin.
Oh, yeah.
And it's about a West Point cadet, Macklin, who sails to Central America on a ship called Panama to seek his fortune.
What are the chances?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and so he casts his lot with an older French fellow. This is all in the book. And together they bring off a revolution in Honduras. And so Hay tells Varia, Macklin is, the French officers, they're searchers after the ideal. And Varia says, from this meeting and this kind of mystical talk about novels and this, that, he says he leaves the meeting in a spiritual daze. He says, it only remained for me to act, And so he interprets everything that Hay has, tried to tell her. Was Hay telling him, get things going? Or was he just talking out of his, whatever? Anyway, he interprets it as like, all right, Hay's on board. I just need to act. So he sends Amador Smith, codename Smith, a telegram that he, Jones, wants to meet with him at the Waldorf. Varia later calls the Waldorf the cradle of the Panamanian Republic.
I know. That's funny.
It's kind of cool.
It is.
And he says, he tells Amador, Americans will support the revolution. And he gives him this flag of liberty. He gives him the flag.
The flag
Completes the kit, the Revolution kit. And this is a flag that John Bigelow's daughter,
I know, John Bigelow,
had stitched together the previous day in complete secrecy.
Yeah.
Like, anybody knows what, like they found out what she's doing. Like, anyway. So, Varilla tells Amador he's got this very specific telegram with exact wording. He said, with that, the moment the new republic is proclaimed, send me this exact telegram with this exact wording. It has to be verbatim. And upon receipt of this telegram, he will send $100,000, and he will guarantee military protection would arrive within 48 hours. I guess that's the message. He can send $100,000, and he thinks that the message he got from Hay was that
the military is...
if a new republic, if they start a revolution, new republic is declared, that the U.S. will definitely send military. That I think is his interpretation from Secretary of State Hay. And so Amador immediately, leaves. He departs. He goes back to Panama, back to Colombia, and he departs on the Yucatan, which actually is the same ship that delivered Teddy Roosevelt and the Rough Riders to Cuba.
Bum, bum.
Isn't that interesting?
It is.
Anyway, Amador arrives in Cologne without incident. He does have a flag wrapped around his stomach.
Yes, that's right.
But he doesn't get caught with it.
No.
Does he? Okay.
No, but the Panamanians reject the flag. They did not like it.
That's right. So they're really disappointed. He's all happy with this news he's sharing. But the revolutionary group, they meet that evening, and he tells them all about it, and the sense that the Americans are going to send help. The moment that he sends this telegram, the moment the republic has been declared. But everybody's disappointed. Like they were expecting him to return with an actual agreement signed by Hay or Roosevelt.
It's a huge risk.
Absolutely.
You have the Colombian military right around the corner, and it doesn't take them very long to get there. So if the American military does not show up, I think it's 50,000 troops to a couple thousand.
Right.
Oh, and the couple thousand aren't armed.
That's right.
They've got rakes and hoes.
Yeah. So, and they also didn't like, as I mentioned, that the proposed boundaries of the new republic,
the Canal
very
zone.
Small. And some of the members were actually outside the Canal zone. They're like, man, this stinks, So one or two of them are, back out. Then Amador learns that a force of handpicked detachment of Colombian sharpshooters, 500 sharpshooters, is on its way to Cologne. I mean, they've just to keep order because they know about this.
They have
possible
heard
revolution.
The Cuban told them that it was going to happen.
Exactly. So Amador meets with railroad officer Herbert Prescott, and they decide together to bluff it out.
And Herbert Prescott ends up being one of the real heroes of the Panamanian Revolution.
I mean,
remember that name,
Prescott. Exactly. And so. They're the only ones actually that know about the 500 sharpshooters that are coming. And so on October 28th, Amador sends a telegram to Varilla in New York to send help. Yeah. And Amador is going to try to prove what can be achieved by merely saying the word. That like if Amador says the word to send help will come. But he does not send the prescribed telegram, the one with the exact wording. And the telegram he sends, he does use some of the code words.
Yeah.
But it's fate, news, bad, powerful tiger, urge, vapor, cologne. Oof. And Varilla gets this telegram, and he's like, what the hell does this mean?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of cool, I think, translating the code. But he says, the first part's clear. So fate, this cable is for Varilla. News, Colombia troops arriving. Bad means the Atlantic side. Powerful, 5 days. Tiger, more than 200. Urge, vapor, cologne. That's the one that didn't conform to the code. And so Varilla's like, what the hell? Oh, maybe this means send a steamer, or send a battleship to Cologne.
Vapor.
Urge, vapor, steamship. Exactly. And so he realized that this is a test to prove that, if Amador asks, Varilla will take action and has
the U.S. military
and
will
has
arrive.
the actual power to pull this off. And so he realizes, Varilla's this Frenchman with no power.
No.
I mean, and he has no power to
He's an engineer.
Yeah, well, and he's got no influence to direct, where the military ships, where U.S. military ships are sent. And so, but he knows that in order for this revolution to happen, for this whole French Canal, Panama Canal to happen, a military ship, battleship has to be sent to Panama, to Cologne at once. Everything depended on it. And again, he has no power to do that. Anyway, Varilla heads to D.C. He meets with the assistant secretary. Again, he does have access to U.S. government offices. Meets with the Secretary of State Loomis, and Loomis says, "Look, we could not commit ourselves, to military action, but quote, it'd be deplorable if there was a revolution and the U.S. did not, show support." Kind of this cryptic message, and so Varilla takes this to mean one thing: that a cruiser has been sent.
Yeah.
To Cologne. That a cruiser's been sent.
He walks out pretty certain, but not 100%.
Yeah. And but he doesn't know when. He doesn't know exactly which one or whatnot. And so Varilla sends a word to Amador that a ship is on its way, and that he knows that if he does that, the first sight of that ship will have its desired effect. The revolution will move forward. His goal will be achieved. For ultimately, there'll be a Panama Canal. And so he sends a cable back to Amador. It says, "All right, Nashville will reach Cologne 2 days and a half." But how did he know that the battleship steamer Nashville, would reach Cologne in 2 days and a half? How did he know that? He didn't.
Great question.
And the whole revolution depends on
the battleship
Nashville showing up when he says it's going to show up. And so, it's kind of brilliant. Risky, brilliant. But Varilla had noticed in the New York papers movement of certain American vessels. The Dixie had been reported on its way to Guantanamo a few days earlier, and the Nashville was in Kingston, Jamaica. So if a ship had been ordered to Cologne, it'd have to be the Nashville, the one that's stationed closest to Cologne. And also, it had been to Cologne earlier. So he's like, logically, that would be the battleship, right? And so figuring ships' speed to be about 10 knots, he figured that the Nashville could cover 500 miles from Kingston to Cologne in about 2 days. And then he added 12 hours to prepare for sailing, and that would bring the Nashville over the horizon at Cologne on the morning of November 2nd. So he just planned. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, just read the papers and did the math, and
his bluff was right.
Took a risk.
And his bluff, and the whole Panamanian, as I said, revolution, Panama Canal depended on it. And his bluff was correct. And he looks in the paper, and like November 1, he sees in his morning paper a small dispatch from Kingston, Jamaica that said, "The U.S. gunboat Nashville sailed from here this morning, destination believed to be Cologne."
Unfreaking believable.
Isn't it?
That is.
History, that his bluff right there and his guesswork changed history.
If that ship does not appear on the horizon, the Colombians come in and put down that revolution very quickly.
100%. So Amador gets Varilla's message or telegram or cable that the U.S. gunboat is on the way. The other members, the revolution, instantly regain their faith in the revolution. Still a complete bluff, but it works, And again, still, no one except Amador and Prescott is aware of the arrival of the Colombian sharpshooters, the 500. Right. So Prescott comes up with this plan, or Prescott and Amador come up with this plan. They're going to move all of the available railroad cars to the other side of the line, to the Panama City side of the line. So when the Colombians get there, there's no train cars available, to take them through the jungle, to the other side, to transport them over there. And so the Nashville, as predicted, comes over the horizon November 2nd.
Unbelievable.
It's about 8 hours late, but past when Varilla said it would. But, there's no cause for alarm by the Colombian officials that were there because it had been there before. No revolution was going on at this point, and they were just kind of surprised that it had returned so soon. But to Amador's compatriots, man, this was irrefutable sign that the U.S. was prepared to guarantee their success, and the Frenchmen could in fact deliver. So they're all
whether the Frenchmen could deliver, the U.S. was fully ready to back the Panamanian Revolution.
That's what this, they had sent a message to send a steamer. Varia says, yeah, okay, here it is.
The ship got here. I'm taking credit for it.
The ship has come in. So, but then the steamer, the Cartagena, comes into Panama City with the 500 sharpshooters.
Yeah.
And this is just a crushing revelation to the revolutionaries. They're like, and even worse, the Nashville, had made no move to prevent their landing the troops.
Right.
So like, wait a minute, here's this ship. The Nashville's here to protect us and support us, but they didn't even prevent the landing of the troops. So all of the exuberance from the arrival of the Nashville, goes out like air going out of a balloon. Because now there are
500 soldiers in the port.
Sharpshooters. And so Amador is even having second thoughts and is about to call the whole thing off when, our theme, all about a woman, Senora Amador, pulls it all together. She is described as a woman of courage and snap. I don't know what that means. But anyway, the woman of courage, she's considerably younger than
She's a child.
Dr.
Wasn't she 13?
That's not the daughter.
The daughter does have this legendary story.
Indeed. And she says, it is time to get on with this fight. Soldiers or no soldiers. So she whips her husband into shape. She whips the others into shape. And her strength and courage, is like, is critical to this revolution going forward.
Grow spine.
Grow spine. Yeah, exactly. And so she whips them into shape. They keep the revolution. They get back. They hatch a plan. And so Prescott's second in command, a guy named Shaler, greets the Colombians. Their commanding officer is General Tobar. He greets them at the wharf, and he tells them, I'm so sorry. There are no railroad cars, here on this side to transport the troops, but we can arrange for a special car to transport the officers to Panama City across the line, so there's no need for you to stand around here in the heat. And then we'll get another train later to bring the troops over, and he convinces the 15 officers that, okay, we'll go ahead and get on this one car. We'll leave our troops, behind, and But one of them starts to get kind of uneasy and starts to talk to the General Tobar and starting to talk him out of it and about to get everybody off this one railroad car. And so Shaler captures the moment. He realizes what's going on. He knows the whole thing is screwed if these guys get back off and so he pulls the cord, pulls the railroad cord, and off they go, whether they like it or not. Maybe even anyway. So
it's insane.
It's one of those moments again where history could have been changed if these officers had gotten off this train car.
Separate the cut off the head of the snake, not in a fatalistic way, but you got all the leadership away from the soldiers.
Exactly. And so
there was one poor guy that was left back with
Torres, I believe. Yeah, and I don't know what his rank was, but he was not. If he was an officer, he was a lowly officer.
But he ends up being pretty badass.
And takes a
he
bribe.
Makes a little stand.
They all take bribes. Yeah. So to kind of abbreviate the story, the officers reach Panama City side, and they set up this great elaborate luncheon for them, and sitting there waiting for the second train with the troops.
Yeah,
it doesn't come. It doesn't come. It doesn't come. No surprise to the revolutionaries. They say, well, let's go review the troops, the Colombian troops here in Panama City. And so they walk down the promenade and to review the Colombian troops. Well, they've already been turned.
Yes.
And so Tobar is reviewing the troops, and to his surprise, the Colombian troops have been as I said,
paid off,
or whatever. So they turn their guns, they take them prisoner. The 15 officers take them prisoner. And immediately, everybody starts celebrating.
Huge
party in Panama City. They proclaim independence. The municipal council, meets with them, gives formal recognition to the new government. Everybody's cheering. And Amador is elected the El Presidente. But over in Colón, there's still these 500 troops. Nobody on this side of the railroad knows anything about what's going on the other side.
50 miles away.
50 miles away. And so long story short, so the idea was they were going to take these 500 troops and just drive them and drop them off midway through the jungle. They end up, there's some tense standoffs, this, that, and the other. I'm going to abbreviate this, but they were able to convince Torres, who's the one that is left in charge of these 500 troops, to back off and stand down. And they're going to put him on a civilian ship, back to Bogota. He agrees to it. He agrees to take an $8,000 bribe. Torres does. And I don't know what they did for the actual troops themselves, but he gives the command, ultimately, to put these guys on the ship. They're about to sail off, and the captain of the ship says, "Wait just a minute."
Right. Forgot about this.
The captain of the ship says, "Look, I'm not taking these troops anywhere unless I'm paid in advance." And so,
per head, I think he needed money per head.
Absolutely. And so Prescott and Shaler, panic. They don't have that kind of money in the railroad. Nobody's got that money sitting around. So these Americans signed personally for the tickets to send these 500 Colombian troops back to Bogota. And luckily, so they get him off, and they pay Torres his $8,000, and they send a case of champagne off on the boat, just so they're no hard feelings.
It is a bloodless revolution.
Pretty much. There is
one death.
There is one death. God,
and it wasn't a Panamanian or a Colombian, was it? It was a Asian barber,
a Chinese. You're thinking of Mr. Lucky in Atlanta, who was the only guy killed in the bombardment.
That's we are in Atlanta. So it was a
Chinese shopkeeper,
yes,
and a donkey,
yes,
and the Chinese shopkeeper, was asleep in bed. Yeah. Unfortunately, he wasn't even out fighting or raising hell. So, just like the barber in Atlanta, who unfortunately got hit by Sherman's
sole
death from the shelling. So anyway, November 6th at 12:51 p.m. the U.S. government officially recognizes the new Republic of Panama.
That's fantastic. The revolution, such a great story. In a crazy ass story.
In a crazy way. And so many things that could have just put a halt to it right then and there. Had they not come up with the money to send those sharpshooters to get those 500 troops back to Bogota, revolution, would have ended right there. Had Amador not won at the poker table,
right,
it would have ended right there.
Had he not figured out the right Bono Varilla, to have the ship appear on the horizon
at the right time,
the right
ship at the right time, through pure guesswork.
It's crazy.
Wouldn't have happened.
So we're going to book real quickly and get through the construction of the canal by the Americans. The Americans have now recognized Panama. They pay $40 million for the land, for all the gear.
One thing they don't have to do is pay Colombia.
They don't have to pay which was going to come out of that money anyways.
But real quick, the treaty, which you're going to talk about, they sign it before they start building. Yeah. Right? They sign a treaty, and Varilla actually is the one that signs the treaty.
Bono Varilla ends up, and I can't get too much into it, but just know that Bono Varilla signed a treaty with Hay that was very disadvantageous to the Panamanians. And Hay was so blown away by the terms that he accepted it immediately. And with a big grin on his face. He could not believe. And the Panamanians were on their way to Washington to prevent Bono Varilla from signing this treaty. They were trying to remove his power to have that ability.
And how he signed it on behalf of the the new Panamanian Republic. I don't remember.
As a Frenchman,
yes,
with no ties whatsoever to the new Panamanian government, he had somehow extracted a title out of the agreement,
which the revolutionary group,
that briefcase or whatever it was.
And not that we want to get into the details, all the details of that treaty, but it was a perpetual treaty. I think that we're going to come back to it was egregious.
It was egregious,
and it was heavily in favor of the U.S. And one of the main things that was kind of totally in favor of the U.S. was that it was in perpetuity.
Yeah,
forever.
The deal that they had with the Colombians was for 99 years.
That's right. And this,
so there was a point at which this
Right, but the deal that they struck with Varela, it was an officer representing the new Panamanian Republic, was a canal zone in perpetuity.
And remind us of how much money Cromwell got for
800. I think. Well, I read 800,000, but I mean, I think it might have been more than that.
He became a very wealthy man.
Next episode, James and I will get into the American project, the American building of the Panama Canal. And we'll get into the transfer of the Panama Canal back to the Panamanians. So join us next time. And please tell your friends about us, like, subscribe, and we appreciate you listening.
This is History for Cocktail Parties with hack historians Thornton Kennedy and James Ottley.